Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Coaching Changes Lives. So glad you can join us this week. Now today, I want to talk a little bit about metaphors. Now too often, many people have been bewildered by this idea, what is metaphors and how do we utilize metaphors in conversations? Now some people say, well, metaphors are only limited to a certain amount of things, they are not the same as others, so there are a whole range of definitions for metaphors. Now what I'm going to share with you, it's what I feel metaphors is truly about. Now having read a lot of research papers on metaphors and different books of how people describe metaphors, it comes down to one fundamental principle. We have been using metaphors down through human history every single time, all down through generations. We have been using metaphors. Metaphors are stories that captures all the meanings, the treasures, the values, the principles, the philosophies of our lives hidden within those stories. And the way I define metaphor, it's really simple. It's what gives meaning, making complex simple. Okay, so for example, I can have a simple metaphor to say that, hey, I feel like a stone today. Now, stone in itself doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that I'm a stone. No, the stone is a representative object of something else. It means it's a symbolic representation of something. So in different cultures, stone means different things. Some cultures, the stone would mean something that's stable. There's something that is rock solid. There's something that is immovable. Something that is confident. That no matter what comes at it, it's still strong. So when I say I'm stone, I'm like a stone, right? It appears that I'm really confident. I'm really strong. I am immovable. But yet in another culture, maybe in a different setting, being stone could be having that very blurred face, having that very almost as if you were on a high kind of experience. So notice the context is king, right? The context application of metaphors is going to be important. Why? Because only people in those communities understand the language of those metaphors. Now, so what if I can't understand the language of the metaphors? Well, that doesn't really matter as much because in the coaching process, what really happens is the conversation that you have with your clients. So think about this. Sometimes your clients may come to you and they tell you, hey, you know what, I'm just feeling like under the rain. Recently there's a torrential pour and I'm just feeling like under the weather and, the rain is just mounting and I feel like my work it feels like thunderclouds all over. Now, what the client has just done is that they've given a metaphor, a representation of something else. Now, the client could have just described and said, well, work feels crazy hard, filled with a lot of emotions, filled with a lot of deadlines, and I'm feeling so troubled by the works. The client could have said that, but the client used a different way of approach, which is using a simple metaphor. Now, that metaphor uses what we call a commonplace object metaphor or naturalistic metaphor. I'm using something to represent something. I'm using nature to represent something, right? Because that might make complex simple. Because if I were to tell you everything that happened in my office, if I were to tell you everything that happened in my workspace, if I were to tell you everything that's happening in my mind, now that is overwhelming. So one of the simple ways that most of us use metaphors is using something to represent a symbolism, a typography, right? So for example, I might use a phone to describe my feelings. I may use the clouds. I may use colors. I may use toys. I may use something to represent something. So when I do that, that is an example of a metaphor. Now, so that is something that most of us are kind of familiar with. And in fact, sometimes we kind of distinguish that between similes, analogies, that might be different, right? So for example, I might use a poem. Now, can a poem be a metaphor? Yes, because the poem represents something. So remember what I said earlier. When our clients present certain content, certain phrase, certain words, certain ideas, they're trying their best to communicate a thought, an emotion, or something that's within them to you as the coach. They're trying their best to express, and the way that they do it best is through all the different representations. They could use words, they could use thoughts, they could use actions, they could use something to really represent what they're feeling on the inside. So one of the key things that most people fail to realize is that metaphors are something that it's used by everyone every single day. right? So sometimes it's easier to hear out for those metaphors when it's kind of obvious. Sometimes clients may use similars, like I'm as small as the grasshopper, I'm as large as the giant, or the challenge feels like a mountain, feels like a mountain. So here in our program, we're not trying to get too technical in things in terms of, oh, that is simile, that is something else, this is a typography, that's an analogy, that's something else, is altogether, that's an isomorphic metaphor, that's a homomorphic metaphor. We try to keep it very, very easy for coaches to start off with, right? In our program known as Metaphorium, that's when we go deeper into the techniques, the technicalities of all these different components. So the first premise is to understand first that all of us want to communicate a thought to another person. And we want to find the best way we can. The most frustrating thing to have happened to us is that we're trying to trying to say something out, but that person just can't understand what I'm saying. I'm trying my best, but I don't understand why the person can't understand. Now, but if we could use a metaphor, maybe it's a music, maybe it's a story, maybe it's a music video, it may be a movie, maybe a film, it may be a manga, maybe an anime, whatever that is, that kind of give meaning or give some form of similarities to what I'm feeling on the inside so I can represent on the outside towards you. Now, how many of you have watched some Japanese anime? You could have, the beauty of Japanese anime is that you could really peer into how the person's thinking, because the person can be just having a normal conversation with you, but yet the animation just shows that, wow, the person's in the world, it's so artistic, so colorful, so rich, and so joyful, and so many colors, and so many amazing creativity. But yet, when you go to Japan, most people are very calm, very poised, very respectful, and they come with a sense of honor in every step of the way. But there's an inner world within them. So this is the second part of metaphors. Metaphors gives us the key to the inner worlds of our clients. Metaphors give us key to the inner world of our clients. And that inner world, it's something so beautiful. When we can unravel the inner world of the clients, it helps us to see the world in a whole new dimension. So too often many coaches say, okay, I want to learn more about this, I want to learn more about that, I want to get to know the clients a little bit deeper. But the clients are telling us their story. Their story, it's the metaphor of what they're trying to express. Now, there's another layer of metaphors that clients, and sometimes we often miss out. Now, it might not be so obvious, like I might use I'm like the cloud, I'm like the rain. It might be very, very simple. I'm just feeling, a little bit challenged today. Now, but that sounds very normal. But do you know that that itself is a metaphor? It's a metaphoric expression. I'm feeling kind of challenged. Kind of challenge. It's a normal syntax, normal word that's used, but when used in an expression in that particular context, reveals a certain depth of emotions, complexity that sometimes might not be so easily expressed. Now, that is a client's metaphor and expression of something deeper. The best available choice of words they could use at that moment was say, I'm just feeling challenged, I'm just feeling challenged. That is a metaphor, right? Now, that is one dimension of metaphors, the most obvious, but yet sometimes it just goes past us. The client can be telling us a story about their lives, what happened and everything. The entire story is a metaphor. Now, do you know that metaphors are not restricted to just what is spoken? Metaphors are also expressed in the unspoken. So think about this. If I were to raise my hands from here to here, from here to here, I'm just, now, what is happening there? I'm using my body as a way to express what I find it very hard to express in words. So I'm using the gestures to kind of express. I'm using my facial features to kind of express, right? I can express also through my energy level that goes up and down. I can express through my intonation. I can express through even my pause, my gaze. Now, sometimes, in one of our advanced class in Metaphorium, one of the advanced class I teach coaches, I teach communicators and speakers, the power of your gaze. If I look at you right now into your eyes, I'm able to sense and able to get a sense of and a kind of vibe of knowing how you're feeling at this current moment and whether there's a connection right now. And oftentimes, great speakers, great communicators are able to use that gaze to go deeper to the core of the issue. So you begin to see that, hey, metaphors are so much more expressive than just the words, the choice of words, the stories, the illustrations. No, there's so much more. There's the non-verbal expression. Now, there are also metaphors, what we call naturalistic metaphors, where we have associated things around us. So take, for example, I can have toys around me. I can utilize toys around me as a metaphor for conversation. I can utilize my text exchange, the recent memes, recent news articles, or whichever things can be utilized as metaphors. Because fundamentally, metaphors are there to assist or simplify thoughts that might come across as very complex for us to express, right? So the beauty of metaphors is to help us as communicators to make complex simple. Now, then what happens to the role of the coach? The role of the coach is to be sensitive to the metaphors that the clients are using, and from there, explore the world of the client and then expand further. Explore the world of the client and help the client to see the world in a whole nother way. So maybe perhaps the client is seeing the world in just this fashion. Step one, step two, maybe in a very, very logical form. They are so accustomed to it. But when you come in as the coach, that's when you begin to challenge them. You stretch them further. You stretch their worldview. There's always a clash of worlds in a conversation. It's my world versus your world. You're trying to understand me, I'm trying to understand you, and it's like, there's a competing worldview. There's a clash of worlds. And this clash of worlds, sometimes what we call convergence of communication that happens in a conversation. And the best way for us is to entreat, to go into the client's world, explore with the client the different limits of the world, and go deeper. Allowing first the permission to enter their world, explore further in order to expand. I'm not trying to influence them using my ideas of my world. I'm trying to go and understand and being curious about their world and what the client is teaching me today. So there you have a very simple idea and understanding of metaphors in communication. And I hope this video has helped you to kind of understand how we have been using metaphors every single day. Now, in the coming videos as well, I'll probably give you some tools and tips and techniques to really help you go deeper. In fact, in one of my classes called Metaphorium, I help coaches to go deeper. I help communicators to go deeper in utilization of not just the words metaphor, non-verbals, as well as the things around us. And that's the beauty of metaphoric expression. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends. And I look forward to seeing you in one of our classes really soon.